Hello and welcome to the Experiencing Love podcast. I'm your host, Philip Jocks, and I'm so glad that you're here. What does it mean to create lasting change? Does it mean a change that lasts forever? Does it mean a change that lasts a year, a month, a week? What is lasting change? What is something that can have a change that lasts? Because I think about the notion that everything changes. Everything's either growing or everything's either dying. So what does it mean to create a change that lasts? Because I guess I also look at it in one of two ways. It's that whenever you make a change, one that's intentional, one that you do on purpose, once you make that change, one of two things can happen, which is you go back to the way things were before, or you change again. So now I'm wondering, if I have something that I change in my life, but then I change it again and again and again every single day, so long as I'm not going back to the way things were before, is it still a lasting change? Or is it the fact that every single day it's changing means it's not lasting? I know when I first think about the term creating lasting change, I think of creating a change that sticks, that you won't go back to the way things were before, and you have a choice as to whether you stick with the change or you update it again. I bring up this idea of lasting change because I've been thinking about change a lot and how everything changes so fast all the time. It's not exactly hard to keep up because I've grown up in this. We've all grown up in this. We're getting used to the speed at which things are changing. And yet, some changes can be a little difficult to comprehend and to overcome. I know there's a lot of things I want to change in my life. Some are easy to change, some are a bit more difficult. And regardless of if I want them to or not, all of them will change. Some will evolve, some will devolve. I'm thinking of good patterns and bad patterns and empowering habits and nasty habits and even mindsets. No matter what you've experienced, just know that everything is capable of change, even people. When I think of lasting change, I can think about other people and say, will that person change for the long run? Can that person change for the long run? Those two questions give two different answers because everyone can always change, but not everyone will. Some people, many of us, actually fight to keep certain things as a part of our life. Addictions are a clear example of that. The world can be shifting around a person in dramatic ways. People could be walking in and out of their lives, but they'll make sure to hold on to whatever their addiction is. There's so many ways to resist change, and there's so many ways that even if we try to resist, life will make us change. And it makes sense that there's things we don't want to change because change is uncomfortable. Change is uncomfortable, and the more we change, the more uncomfortable we feel. We as people like things to stay the same. And I used to be so averse to change. Whenever change would happen in my life, I would get tense and I would get irritated and upset and lash out at the people around me. And it just wasn't a great experience. And I found a loophole around it, which is we as people don't want things to change, but if we make a statement or if we follow a belief that doesn't change about change, it kind of side skirts that discomfort of change. And that may be a little vague. I'll give the example that I use in my life, which is I've embraced change. I've begun to follow the belief that change is inevitable. Change will always happen, and I expect change. Because of that, and because change always happens, whenever change comes into my life, it's not as uncomfortable. It's not as uncomfortable because it's not blindsiding me. Instead, maybe there's slight discomfort in the thing that actually changes, but the idea of change doesn't scare me. It doesn't rub me the wrong way. I've been thinking a lot about change too because I've been thinking about the simple equation that if I don't have something in my life that I want, something needs to change. Either my environment needs to change or I need to change. It's simply a fact that we have more control over changing ourselves than we do our environment. We can change our physical environment, like where we are, but sometimes we can't change the people we're around, at least not easily. We can't just exactly get up and move for who knows how long. We can't just leave our job and be okay with everything that's coming our way, all the challenges, all the hardships. But we could change how we are, how we react, how we think. And because there's so much that I still want, I just see it as there's so much that I still need to change. about myself, about the way I think, but most importantly about the way I show up and about the way I take action. I find that whether it's a good idea or a bad idea that I'm acting on, simply acting on the idea provides a better rate of success than if I waited for the best idea that I can have. Maybe not the best idea, but something that feels like a good idea. Action is the cure-all to all problems. Inaction is a form of action, and rarely does it work. Rarely does doing absolutely nothing actually fix a problem. I find that to be different than being patient and observing, or asking questions and doing research. Because in those situations, you're still doing something. You're being intentional, and you're not acting out of fear. Fear lives in the head, and even now, I feel like I'm really in my head. I'm in my head about this podcast and these recordings. I'm in my head about all the changes I still need to make, and if I'm doing the right thing, if I'm following the right path. I get a lot of signs every day that I am on the right path. I am doing what I'm meant to be doing, and that it is supposed to be as difficult as it is. And yet that little voice still perks up, makes me question, makes me wonder. Now I hear that voice and I used to freeze. When I used to hear that voice and I would freeze, I would actually do nothing. I'd participate in inaction, and I wouldn't go anywhere. I wouldn't learn anything new. I wouldn't know what the answers are to my questions. I still show up every single day. I go to the gym every day. I record and post this podcast every day because for me, it's at least doing something. It's taking an action. I show up and I record every day and I exercise every day because I know that I may not be seeing the results now, but there's going to be a version of me, maybe a year from now or 3 years from now, that looks back and is grateful that I kept taking action, because I still have a lot of no's and a lot of mistakes and a lot of slip-ups and mess-ups and stumbles that I need to experience before I reach the victory I'm meant to reach. I think the next few years of my life could be so exciting, so eventful, so filled with learning and with growth. And yet, it's not going to be easy. I'm running out of time for the rest of today to make sure that I post this on time, so I'm going to cut this here. I'm leaving this on a bit of a mental cliffhanger for myself, and I believe tomorrow will be different. It'll be a change, and with that change, I'll learn something, I'll grow, and I'll move on. I hope you have a wonderful day of change. Change in the best way possible that stretches you and grows you into the person you're meant to become. Remember to always fill up with the love, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one. I love you.